Okay, guys. So today we are going to introduce our new topic, which is matrices. And I'm actually going to share my whiteboard so that I can explain the concept a little bit better. And what are matrices? And I'm going to first give a little theory on what matrices are. And no, it's not the movie, although I don't think a lot of you guys know what that movie is. um, the definition of what a matrix is, and then we're going to see today we're going to focus on adding and subtracting and basic operations of matrices. Okay, so here we go. It says a matrix is a rectangular arrangement of numbers in rows and columns. So if we have this, it's basically a rectangular arrangement of numbers. Now remember that could be rectangles are uneven, so that means that you can have at some point have matrices with different dimensions. Dimensions, of course, refer to the number of rows. Anyway, so these are the columns. So we would say that this matrix is a 2 by 3 column, um, or excuse me, a 2 by 3 matrix because it has 2 rows, 1 and 2 rows, and it has one. Remember, the rows are horizontal. So we could say that this matrix has 2 rows and 3 columns. 1, 2, 3 columns, guys. Okay, so a matrix is a rectangular arrangement of numbers that are divided in rows and columns. And remember that the rows are horizontal. So this matrix particularly has 2 rows and one, which are the vertical arrangements, 2 and 3 columns. Now, today we're going to focus on adding and subtracting matrices. So we're actually going to go ahead and look at the formulas for adding matrices. And the formula basically says matrix A, B, C, D plus matrix E, F, G, H equals A plus E, B plus C. I'm sorry, A plus E, B plus F, C plus G, and D plus H. The same thing goes with subtracting. Matrix A B C D minus matrix E F G H equals A minus E, B minus F, C minus G, and D minus H. Now I know that this sounds really confusing, but it's really easy. And actually, let's just go ahead into the examples. I'm going to leave the formulas there so that you guys have an idea what we're going to be doing. And let's look at the first example. The first example says, or we have matrix 3, 0. So I'm going to go ahead and right here, we have an arrangement of 3, 0 over -5 and -1. -5 and -1. And we're going to add that to um, -1, 4, 2, and 0. -1, 4, 2, and 0. Let me erase that because there's no commas in there. In fact, they're closed kind of like in brackets. So let me go ahead and erase this real quick right here. And let me arrange them in brackets. Brackets. And they're two separate matrices. Okay. So based on the formula, it says, well, you know, A plus E and B plus F and all that stuff. So what does that mean? It's really simple. In fact, you can do a lot of these mentally. I am gonna, however, do the middle step so you guys see what's going on. So it's gonna be 3 plus -1. So I'm gonna add 3 plus -1. And then I'm gonna have 0 plus 4. And then I'm going to have 5 or negative 5 plus 2, and that's pretty much what you're doing. Negative 5 plus 2. And then finally, negative 1 plus 0. So that's what it means. The A plus E and B plus F and C plus G and D plus H. It just means that. And really, you can do this mentally. Just writing the steps so you guys see what's going on. But it's really, you can just do that mentally, and there's really no need for this. However, let's go ahead and do it. So obviously, 3 plus negative 1, and then we get a different color for the answer. Let me use blue. 3 plus negative 1 is 2, and then 0 plus 4 is 4, and then negative 5 plus 2 is negative 3, and negative 1 plus 0 is negative 1. So the matrix that we get as a result is 2, 4, negative 3, and negative 1. Okay, so again, the matrix that we get is positive 2, positive 4, negative 3, and negative 1. Let me go ahead and do the next one. So the next matrix, and this is, so go ahead and feel free to pause it and see what I did. And I'm actually going to erase it. And we're going to go ahead and just do the second example. Or it's actually in the first example, but the second matrix in the first example. And the second matrix is not a 2 by 2, 2-row, 2-column matrix like we saw, but we're actually going to see, now we're going to see a 3 by 3 matrix, and we're going to be subtracting, or a 2 by 3, excuse me, 2 columns and 3 by 2, 3 rows and 2 columns. So it is 7, 4. We have 0 and negative 2. And negative 1 and 6. Negative 1 and positive 6. Minus negative 2, 5. Negative 2 and 5. 3 and negative 10. And negative 3 and 1. And negative 3 and 1. So we're going to do the same thing. We're simply going to subtract, and we're pretty much going to do the same thing we did here. So let me go ahead and get black now. We're doing the opposite. So, and again, you can do this step mentally, but I'm going to go ahead and do it for the benefit of so that you guys know what's going on. So 7 minus negative 2 is what I'm going to subtract. Remember, A minus E. So 7 minus negative 2. Then you're going to have 4 minus 5 on this side. And then we're going to have 0 minus 3. And then negative 2 minus negative 10 on the other side. -2 minus -10, and -1 minus -3. And 6 minus 1. 6 minus 1. So 7 minus -2, 4 minus 5, 0 minus 3, -2 minus -10, -1 minus -3, and 6 minus 1. So 7 minus -2 is going to be 9. So the answer is actually going to be 9. 4 minus 5 is going to be -1. 0 minus 3 is going to be -3. 1 second, -3. -2 minus -10 is going to turn into -2 plus 10, which is going to be 8. -1 minus -3. Let me go ahead and see if I can expand this a little bit. -1 minus -3 is going to turn into -1 plus 3, and -1 plus 3 is +2. And of course, 6 minus 1 is 5. So that means that the answer that we get, or the resulting matrix, is 9, -1, -3, and 8, and 2 and 5. So it's very simple to add and subtract matrices. Now, in the next example, we're going to see a little bit of multiplication and a combination of both. We're not going to go into multiplication per se. So let me go ahead and erase this real quick, and let's go into example number 2. So example number 2 also divides itself into 2a and 2b. The way, if you look at example 2a and 2b in your textbook, it can be a little confusing. The reality is that it's much simpler. So I'm actually going to try to the best of my abilities to simplify it, and hopefully that'll help you guys work on the practice problems that have been assigned. So hopefully you can do that. So let's go ahead and look at example number 2. Example 2 says -2 times. So now we have a matrix, but we're multiplying by another number, and we have -2 times, and we have the matrix is 4, -1, 4, -1, 1, 0, and 2 and 7. So what we are going to do in this example is we're just going to multiply -2 by everything that's in the matrix. So we're actually going to use a distributive property. We're actually going to multiply the -2 by all the numbers inside of the matrix, and that's going to give us a resulting matrix. So we're going to multiply -2 by everything that is inside of the matrix, and -2 times 4 is going to be -8. So I know that my answer is going to have -8. -2 times -1 is actually going to be +1, or +2, excuse me. So -8, +2. -2 times 1 is going to be -1. -2 times 0 is obviously 0. And -2 times 2 is -4. And -2 times 7 is -14. So again, all we did in that one is just we used the distributive property. So we multiplied -2, which was outside of the matrix expression, by everything that was inside. So again, -2 times 4, -8, -1, -2 times -1, +2. -2 times 1 is -2, actually. I realized I made a mistake here. negative 2 times 1 is negative 2. So hopefully that mistake is fixed and there are no more errors. Let's get the spotlight again. Negative 2 times 4, negative 8. Negative 2 times negative 1 is positive 2. Negative 2 times positive 1 is negative 2. Negative 2 times 0 is 0. Negative 2 times 2 is negative 4. And negative 2 times 7 is negative 14. So the resulting answer for that matrix is negative 8, 2, negative 2, 0, negative 4, and negative 14. Now, the last example that we're going to see in this video is the last part of example number 2. And let's go ahead and do that real quick. So the last example that we're going to see says 4 times, and we have our matrix, 4 times negative 2, negative 8, negative 2, negative 8, 5, 0, 5 and 0. And we're going to add that to another matrix. So that would be plus that would be plus negative 3, 8, 6, and negative 5. Plus negative 3, negative 3, 8, six, negative 3, 8, 6, and negative 5. So we have a matrix operation, and what we're going to do in the matrix operation is we are going to first, just like we would do in order of operations, is we are going to multiply this, the 4, times all of these numbers. So the first thing we're going to do is multiply, 4 times negative 2, which is going to be negative 8. And then you're going to multiply 4 times negative 8, which is going to be negative 32. And then we're going to multiply 4 times 5, which is 20 down here. And of course, 4 times 0, which is 0. And we're going to add that to negative 3, 8, 6, and negative 5. So negative 3, 8, and 6, and negative 5. 6 and negative 5. So now we're going to add the matrices, okay? So we're going to add, and again, I'm going to do this mentally. Negative 8, we're going to add it. Well, you know what? Let me just go ahead and write it. We're going to add negative 8 plus negative 3. So negative 8 plus negative 3. Let me do it for the benefit of I know that there are people that, I know it's a little bit trickier to explain this. So negative 8 plus negative 3. Then negative 32 plus positive 8 is what we're going to have in our other side of the matrix. Negative 32 plus 8. And then we're going to have 20 plus 6. 20 plus 6. 20 plus 6. And then finally 0 plus negative 5. So 0 plus negative 5. And then we are going to say, well, negative 8 plus negative 3 is negative 11. So negative 11 Negative 32 plus 8 is actually going to be negative 24. 20 plus 6 is 26. And 0 plus negative 5 is negative 5. And that would be the resulting, the answer, all right, to the matrix. So negative 11, negative 24, 26, and negative 5. Let me actually take this negative 11 because I write it a little bit better. Negative 11, let me go ahead and fix that. Negative 11, negative 11, negative 24, 26, and negative 5. So again, all I did for that last example, guys, is I multiplied 4 times negative 2, which is negative 8, 4 times negative 8, which is negative 32, 4 times 5, which is 20, and 4 times 0, which is 0. Then I added negative 8 plus negative 3, which is negative 11, negative 32 plus 8, which is negative 24, 20 plus 6, which is 26, and 0 plus negative 5, which is negative 5. And that is how we work with matrix operations, basic matrix operations. Hopefully this video is helpful to you guys. So we'll see each other soon. Stay safe. Bye.